Welcome to our second episode
of this time.
Right, we picked a name, right?
This time, do it right.
This time, do it right.
We decided to name our podcast, This Time, Do It Right, because that has been our tagline forever.
For a long time.
Long time.
So, you know, it's funny, I got a quick thing on that tagline. When I first joined the company, I didn't get it. This time, do it right. It was a hard thing to understand. So then I realized, after working here for many years, not even many years, why that tagline, why you came up with that tagline for your company, and more importantly, why you came up with that tagline for the Poconos. And that's going to lead us into our topic today.
Right into our first topic, and that is Pocono contractors. Beware of the Pocono special.
So let me, for our listeners out there, let me kind of preface this with what we call the Pocono special. Now, before I jump that far into it, one of the things that we wanted to do with this podcast, Mike and I had discussed many times, is we kind of wanted to bring information to people who live in the Poconos, or that might have recently moved to the Poconos and just aren't sure, about their homes, about their HVAC systems, about their plumbing systems, but also wanted to kind of bring some education into the types of contractors that are out there in the Poconos. And before we go any further with this, I just want to say there are many good contractors in the Poconos.
Absolutely.
Many good contractors in the Poconos.
Absolutely.
I think we happen to be the best, but we don't do everything, so we can only be the best in our realm. So.
I like to call the people who offer you the Pocono special the pickup truck Chucks. Pickup truck Chuck. Now, I have a friend of mine named Chuck, very close friend, and he has a pickup truck. So, Chuck, if you're listening, I'm not talking about you. What I'm talking about is somebody who is typically working with himself and maybe one helper, might be a brother or a cousin or relative, typically very, let's say, inexpensive, and not insured, does not have a Pennsylvania license, which all contractors who go into anyone's home is required to have by the state of Pennsylvania. And probably not very well trained, but he can offer you the Pocono special.
That's right. Yeah, he's the I know a guy. I know a guy.
Yeah. And he can do it for less money than a company like ours or just about any reputable company in the Pocono Northeast. So pickup truck Chuck, maybe we take a little funny story here. What you can expect from somebody like that? Well, let's just start with the 4th of July, which is coming up pretty soon, okay? So a company like ours, we have 24/7, 365 days a year, someone on call to take care of you no matter what, day or night, weekends, holidays. So if on the 4th of July your air conditioning system goes out and you have family and guests at your home having a cookout and it's 95 degrees out, what do? Well, give pickup truck Chuck a call. He's at the shore.
Yeah, he might show up
and,
in a couple days. So
even if he's not at the shore, he's so stressed out by the customers of his inadequate work that he installed calling him on the 4th of July on that 95 degree day that he can't possibly get to you for a week. So, it's something we pride ourselves on, that, you call us, doesn't matter, 95 degrees out, 4th of July, you're going to get a live person on the phone. And they're going to get somebody out to help you immediately.
All right, that's good to know. So let's talk about you've been in the business for a long time. Long time.
Okay, John, back off.
Let's talk about some of the things we've seen out there that really just, you had to shake your head at. And I mean, the stories that we have are just insurmountable to climb over sometimes that we've seen out there in the Poconos. But give me a couple things that stick out in your mind.
Well, I think one of, not being in the industry, a lot of people out there may find this more horrible than funny. I find it funny. I feel bad for the customer. But we had a woman in Toby Hanna who called us in the dead of winter and said, I have no heat, and I need a new boiler, I'm sure, because it basically burned up, burned right through the shell of the boiler. So she knew she needed a new one. We went out, and actually at that time I was the sales guy for the company. We were much smaller back then. This is probably about 20 years ago. And I went out and I gave her a quote on a new boiler. Well, she called me back and she said, you know, very nice to meet you and thank you for the quote, but we're going to go with somebody else. She said, I'm going to go with this guy. He's half your price. And I, you know, of course, tried to educate her a little bit and said, you know, is he insured? Are you sure? You know, does he have a good reputation? You have people who recommended him? And she said, well, I just can't afford to spend more than that. I think this is the best way to go. So about a week later, I get a phone call from her and she says, you know, I really feel bad I didn't go with you, but I'm having trouble with the system he put in and I can't get him on the phone. I've left him several messages. Can you please come out and take a look at it? So I sent our service technician out and he gave me a call. He said, you really need to come up here and see this. I've never seen anything like it. So I said, okay, I'll be out in a few minutes. Drove up to Toby Hanna. This company installed a boiler.
With water in it.
With water in it on her back porch. She complained that the heat wasn't working in the kitchen, so he put the boiler on the back porch right outside the kitchen and put a pipe through the outside wall into the kitchen and attached it to the baseboard water heat in the kitchen. The system, of course, if you put a boiler outside, even though it really is not a correct way to do an installation, you would think he at least put antifreeze in the system so it wouldn't freeze. He did not. And even if you did that, the water line that supplies the boiler with water was missing. And I was like, what is going to happen here? Of course, heating systems, water evaporates, and eventually you need to feed more water into it. He didn't even have a water line going to it. So eventually this boiler was going to basically crack.
Freeze and crack.
Freeze and crack. And then I looked at the model number and serial number and I realized, and I should have known just by looking at it, it was a used boiler. So she got it for half the price.
Yes.
And we removed that and we put the boiler in the basement where the other boiler was, where it's supposed to be. And we got paid for that job. And she was embarrassed and she was mad. And I don't know if she ever got any retribution from Pickup Truck Chuck.
Probably not, unfortunately.
But, you know, that's kind of the stuff that I've seen out there. And it goes on today. I mean, that was 20 years ago, but the same thing happens today where, you know, price is not the only thing you should be looking at. I mean, people talk about that all the time, but in our industry, it's critical.
Yeah.
You're talking about your home, probably the biggest investment you've ever made. And you want to make sure heating, air conditioning, plumbing is done correctly. Some of these things can ruin your home if they're not done right.
It is it's a tough spot to be in. Again, we could go on with story after story about this. I'll share one quick one with you, one of mine most recent ones. I got called to a customer's home, had a brand new system installed, heat pump, okay? Electric bills through the roof. Had the guy that installed it back 3 times before the guy stopped returning his phone calls.
I remember this one.
Yes, so the first time he came back, he said, oh, you got a thermostat problem. Put a new thermostat in, didn't solve the problem. Electric bills were still through the roof and wasn't heating the house properly. Second time he came back, he goes, oh, you need a bigger electric heater in that heat pump. Put a bigger electric heater in that heat pump, said, this should solve your problem, and away he went. Okay, well then the electric bill got even higher because of the bigger heater. Then the third time he came back, he said, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with this system. I'm a good installer. And that was the last he ever heard of that contractor. Okay, so he ended up calling rjGroner Company. We get out there and we find this air handler in a crawl space. All right, and it was an okay kind of install. There were a lot of things that shouldn't have been done, but we're going to nitpick it here. But my technician standing in the basement, he's like, where is this pulling air from? Like, it's not pulling air back from the house, even though there's a duct attached to it. Where's it coming from?
Now, let me just interject here because, we're talking about a wide audience, hopefully here. We're not just talking about people in our industry. For a heat pump system, air conditioning system, anything that has ductwork in your house, to work properly, there has to be supply air.
Yep.
And there has to be return air.
That comes back.
So the air has to flow out and back in all the time, circulating.
Good
and
point.
now finish what happened here.
So our technician is out on the job site, and the ductwork actually looked pretty good, and he touches it, and it moves away from the unit, right? It literally is just leaning against the cabinet of the unit. No hole, no nothing cut in the unit or anything like that. It's
so
just sitting
absolutely no return air.
Except
for what's in the crawl
right,
space.
a giant hole in the crawl space pulling up all that moldy, dirty air, all that air up into this guy's house, ice cold air from the outside. And we just couldn't believe it. And actually, let me back up on that. We could believe it because we've seen this way too many times.
We've seen it many times.
Now, here's the important part that I want to talk about. And what we say is the psychology of these jobs, okay? I've had this happen in my own home, okay, with the contractors that have come in and worked for me, all right, because I'm a little cheap, and I sometimes look for that best deal.
You're what?
A little cheap, okay, and I've paid for it every time. I've paid twice. So one of the things that happens is when you do get taken advantage of, first, you're extremely mad at the person that took advantage of you, okay, but even more so, sometimes you're mad at yourself. You're embarrassed that you let this happen.
You're mad, you're embarrassed, and when you call us to help solve your problem now, you've already got somewhat of an attitude.
Yeah.
And it carries over to us.
It does.
Where we've had phone calls where a disgruntled customer, not our customer, has called in and said, you guys know what you're doing? We really need you to take care of this right away. And, they're very mad. They're very upset with themselves. Mm-hmm. But, they kind of take it out on us, but we're used to it.
We're used to it. And
because we know when we're done, they'll be satisfied. They'll be 100%.
100%. And we have gone to great lengths. And it's tough because you know what happens in that situation? You don't pay once and cry once. You got to pay twice now, and you got to cry twice now. And that's a tough situation to be in. And of course, if you're already out that money and you have no other resources to get additional money, you try and take that contractor to court. Good luck trying to take that contractor to court. He usually disappears, files bankruptcy, disappears, from the area, and you're stuck. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately,
it's a shame, but
it is.
It happens. And I'm sure it doesn't just happen in the Pocono Northeast. It happens everywhere. But what we typically call the Pocono Special are these guys or these companies who just do not have any credibility. And let me mention this. One of the biggest reasons, of course, that people do this, they work with Pickup Truck Chuck, is because it's cheaper.
Right.
They're saving money, they think.
Everybody who's in business knows that there's a cost to doing business. If you're a legitimate business and you pay your insurances and you pay your employees well and you have all the materials and you stock all of the stuff so you can take care of the customer the same day, there is an expense to that. So when you're evaluating those situations where you're going to get the best deal, keep in mind, you may not be getting the best deal in the end when you need it the most. So, because once you sign that check or hand over that cash or pay that credit card, you're done. That guy got the money and he's out. So
our big advice on this topic is ask them if they're registered with the state of Pennsylvania.
How do you protect yourself, basically, is what?
How do you protect yourself?
Yeah.
Ask them how long they've been in business.
Now, I want to say something about in business. Longevity, okay? A company that's been in business, and not just rjGroner. There are many companies in the Poconos that have been in business for a long time. There's a reason they're in business for a long time, okay? They take good care of the customers. Yeah, you're going to get some customers that are unhappy. This is life, okay? You don't make everybody happy in this world, but it's what you do after that. If you have an unhappy customer, that sets you apart from your competition. So, but so yeah, how long have you been in business? That's a big, big red flag. Well, I only do this on the side.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm getting a great
that's
deal.
not very good.
Yeah. I'm doing it on the side though, meaning you're never going to see me again.
Do you have a Pennsylvania license?
So-
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on getting it.
I'm working
So,
on that. Are you insured? Well, I was, but that company, needs to get back to me because, for some reason I was canceled. Oh, really? Okay.
Gee, I wonder why.
But
So how else
yeah.
can you protect yourself if you're any? And this is any contractor. Again, this is not just our business. This
How
is
about
any contractor.
reputation? Okay. Have you talked to anybody that's used this company and is 100% satisfied?
Yep.
And boy, if you can't find anybody, if they won't give you any references, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Oh, there's something I just thought of.
Go ahead.
Came up the other day. So the internet now, I mean, that's big. Everybody goes out, you take a look at internet. Okay, reviews. We're going to look at reviews. We're going to look at pictures of work that this company has done. How about the one we saw the other day? And we've seen a couple of these lately. You go out on the internet and you see these pictures. Okay, wow, it looks like beautiful work they're doing. Okay, so there's a way to drill down.
Yes.
That I didn't realize.
Yes,
I
you
think
can
you told me.
actually you can actually click on those pictures. You can click on them to see where they're actually attached to, where they came from. We find some of those pictures are from country or from companies that are not even in our state that are doing work. So
Not even our country.
yeah. I mean, it's
It's pictures that they've just grabbed off the internet illegally
Right, and said,
put
"Oh,
on
we
their
did this."
website or
Yep.
their Facebook page and said, "Look at this great
Look at what
work
I
we've
did."
done."
So-
Yes. So you have to be wary of the internet.
You've got
you
it.
know?
There is the amount of scams, not just in our business, not in contracting, but just the amount of scams going on right now in our country is just insane. And
it is.
unfortunately, when you're in need, and you're in need of a major repair or something, you need a roof, something coming apart in your house, it's easy to get trapped in those deals that look.
Yeah, it
too
doesn't
good.
matter if you're putting a deck on, a roof. I mean, anything you're doing, remodeling, adding on to your home, you've got to make sure that you check all the boxes. And, I think we are one of those companies that check all the boxes.
Oh, 100%.
Very
We're
easily.
absolutely going to use our own podcast to do shameless plugs, and we're going to do it right now. So we're going to talk about what sets rjGroner apart from a lot of the other contractors out there.
We've been in business for over 95 years. I mean, to do that, a third generation company that has been in business almost 100 years, how do you do that? How do you sustain that through, I mean, we're talking about look back 100 years, Second World War, Depression, recessions, the banking crisis, the real estate bubble bursting, the market, the stock market, when the dot-coms fell out and people were in financial trouble and it goes on and on and on over 100 years. I mean, there's so many things we could talk about that this company, along with everyone else in America, has been through. And through all of that, how did we ever sustain? How did we ever stay a leader, an expert in the community for plumbing, heating, and air conditioning? Because of, I believe, our dedication to two major things. One, absolutely the customer. We've tried, and we still do, to make sure that every single customer is 100% satisfied. And the second thing, I think, is our employees. I mean, this is something else you need to ask Pickup Truck Chuck. I keep going back to him. And I apologize to all those people named Chuck that have pickup trucks out there. These are certain people I'm talking about. One of the things that I would ask some of these contractors who are offering you things that just sound like it's too cheap, that it's too easy, something isn't right. What are your employees' background, criminal background? Do you know? Have you checked it? We don't hire anybody. We don't even hire them until we do criminal background checks. We do complete physicals to make sure they're able to handle the job, because it's not that easy sometimes physically. We also do drug and alcohol testing, and this is all pre-employment. And we could tell a lot of funny stories about
we're not
how
gonna do
things
that.
have happened
We've had some good
before and why we didn't hire
Yeah.
people. But we put them through all these checks, driver's license checks, to make sure they don't have a lot of violations. Maybe a DUI or something that really not a safe person that I would want in my own home.
Correct.
And if I wouldn't want them in my home, I'm certainly not going to let them go into your home. And these are questions also that you should be aware of, you should be checking. And the other thing is, are your employees trained and experts in what they're doing?
Well, I can say I'm an expert.
You can say you're an expert, but can you prove it? Credentials. Do you know that you can't even handle refrigerants in this country? You cannot handle refrigerants without a license.
Certification.
You have to be certified. And refrigerants are every air conditioning system has them, every heat pump system has them, and if ductless systems have them, even your car with your air conditioning has them.
By the way, we don't do car air conditioning.
We don't.
Yes,
We don't do that.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to explain that, like, refrigerants are everywhere, and the safe handling of refrigerants is a huge issue today because of the environment. So that is something that, you should be aware of, that all of our technicians, all of them, are certified.
And it's interesting you bring all that up because, again, is there a cost to having that business?
Oh my God.
Yes. Is there a cost to doing things the right way? There's a huge cost to doing things the right way.
And that's overhead. That's our overhead.
Yes.
And that's why we will never be
the cheapest.
the cheapest people out there on the street. Never. And because you get what you pay for.
You get what you
Simple as
pay
that.
for.
But here's something that we offer as a legitimate company. We offer financing. And I'm amazed at some of the financing deals we have. We work with at least 3 or 4 different companies to make it affordable for anyone to do business with us. We can go from a simple $1,000 repair that we can finance for our customers, $12.81 a month that you have to pay for $1,000.
It's unheard of in this area.
It's crazy.
What we've been able to do.
And going all the way up to a $20,000 repair, $250 a month. Wow. I can put a $20,000 heating, air conditioning, plumbing, whatever it is, system into my home and only pay $250 a month. It's incredible
Yep.
what
Now,
you can do.
if somebody asks me, well, how does that tie in with what you're talking about? It's simple. When you deal with a reputable company, these companies like ours, have access to these types of programs and many other types of programs.
Exactly.
That some of these smaller guys just don't have access to, or these fly-by-night companies. And it's just one of the many things we bring to the table. And again, Mike, is there a cost for all of that?
Absolutely.
100%. There is a cost to doing business. Well, I think, Mike, that pretty much wraps up our second episode for This Time Do It Right, which I thought was a pretty clever idea. So look at that. We finally got a use for that tagline after all.
So, yeah, we are doing the This Time Do It Right podcast.
Yes, I like the name. We picked that on ourselves. We didn't have to go to anybody and ask.
And we found that on our shirt.
Yes, look down on his shirt, and there it was.
And we found it. There it is on the wall.
So.
We found it just about everywhere rjGroner is.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everybody out there that supports us and listens to us.
Yes,
And,
thank you for listening. And, I hope we were informative. I hope we helped you out in one way or another.
Absolutely. Yep.
And all we have to say is,
This time, do it right.